Welcome to the Advertising Forum. This is episode 4 of our 2025 Creative Experience Series, sponsored by TripleLift.
Today we have Meredith Brace, the CMO at TripleLift, with us today to discuss why the creative experience is so important to TripleLift and their clients. Meredith, I'm excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Same here. And we were catching up before the recording 6 months in, stepping into your role as CMO.
Just about. Yep. Starting to be a little more clear than it was in the first month.
It's clear, but I sense from our prior convo that you had very clear vision of what's going on and what's going to happen in the future for creative. I'd love to hear from you, from your perspective, why there's so much importance around creativity and commerce and CTV and how that's being shaped over the next few years at TripleLift.
Absolutely. I think that intersection between those things is just this huge dynamic growth opportunity. There's so much excitement, there's so much growth, and you hear about them in silos, but when you think about them together, it's this opportunity to see the realization of personalized creative. And that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, but more relevant, more personalized creative that's really allowing sort of advanced purchase decisions. And so I think that's what's kind of getting me excited. And that's where a lot of our focus has been at TripleLift.
What motivated you to join TripleLift? It has a lot of strengths. It's been in market for quite a few years. What was that real motivating factor that got you to jump and join the company?
A couple of key things. One is people. I think people is always my number one criteria for joining a company, having been at big companies and small companies. And when you look at this size of a company, you really want to work with people that motivate you, that are smart, that are doing hard things, that are, not afraid to just take on big challenges. And so when I met, Ed Dinashare, and I had worked with Bob Kuhn, who's here, and a bunch of people, I thought, oh my God, this is a group that I want to be a part of this. Whatever they're doing, I want to be a part of it because there was enthusiasm. But it's also that stage of a company where it's been around long enough. It's probably at that teenager stage, and just helping shape it to be an adult is just so exciting, right? Because all the inner workings are there to be this incredible adult, this incredible human that's been raised for, a number of years through different people. And that's really exciting to do that. But I think the number one thing outside of the people was just this notion of creativity at the heart. And just this creative first company. And that's something that's just in my DNA. I love creative. I don't think we always talk about it enough. And I think it's critical to our success as an industry.
Meredith, I love that response on both a personal and professional level. On the personal side, deciding who you're going to work with, because we all have limited time. And so who we choose to work with, depending on the different people's values and just what drives us, it's so important. And then professionally, creative it's fun, it's dynamic, it's exciting. And so
inspiring, it should be inspiring.
It should be inspiring. It really should. And so to be able to blend those two passions says a lot about the culture that you're, for the past 6 months that you've been just dynamically building. And so as you had mentioned specifically, being half a year into your new role as CMO of TripleLift, you're in this high school stage, this teenager phase. As brands look for more dynamic, data-driven solutions, what principles will guide TripleLift's approach to ensuring that creative stays compelling and front and center?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, it's in our DNA. And I think, creative has always been a priority for most advertisers. I was an advertiser for many years, both at HP, Microsoft, doing big, bold storytelling. But as of late, I think we've all been kind of focused on this more data-driven approach. And we've gone down the race to the bottom in terms of optimize for efficiency and how do we get to that right person while losing sight of the creative message, right? So you can get to the right person, but if you don't have the creative message, then who cares? So I think really it's about this creative first mentality. It's how are we bringing the best to light? How are we thinking about the right message, but the right format and the right vessel for that message to really shine? And I think that's really important. And what we're trying to do is make that easy for people. We're trying to make it easy for publishers, easy for advertisers to have the most high impact container possible, but doing it at the ease and scale of programmatic. So that's, I think, our special sauce is really high impact creative, but not the high impact resources that usually take to get high impact creative. And then the results speak for themselves. Once you do that at scale, you have the results that show for it. So that's really what motivates us and are the key components and principles for what we think will drive the industry forward.
So for your clients and your partners that are seeking to stand out in commerce and CTV environments, what immediate steps or just actual mindset shifts should they start adopting?
I mean, those are two really different things, and it gets a little muddy because we also bring those things together. But if you think about commerce, like you think about, I mean, the answer to both those questions is advertising should never be one size fits all. Like it just can't be. So if you're trying to do a one size fits all approach, you're out of the gate doing it wrong. Commerce just creates so much opportunity. Again, leaning heavily into the data, but maybe data for different reasons. So you can extract so much from your Amazon partnership, from your Walmart partnership to understand more about how to impact the message and what resonates more with your consumer. So use that to your advantage for your creative. And then, so I think that commerce has its own kind of set of really interesting opportunities that you should think about. CTV to me is like, be true to the medium. Take advantage of that medium still. Don't try to bring performance-driven strategies into CTV necessarily. And I did say that, but we offer really interesting units in CTV, and some of that may feel more performance-driven. But if you lose sight of storytelling in that medium, you're going to go down the wrong path. So really think about what we want people to do is think about work with us, both publishers and advertisers alike. How do we enhance all that has to offer and make it more compelling to a consumer? Because at the end of the day, the consumer experience is what we all want to strive for and make sure that's the best one possible.
So well said. And as you're doing that, how do you plan to actually foster the collaboration between the creative teams and the tech side so that innovation doesn't come at the expense of storytelling, which is just so important to a brand marketer like yourself?
Yeah, this one's a hard one. And I've been dealing with this challenge for years. Again, coming from the creative brand side and knowing how important a brand's storytelling and building those stories are. By the time it gets to, the programmatic investment, it's gone through a lot of different iterations and hands. And so ever since I've been on the publisher side, I've always been saying we got to get closer to the creative sort of influencers at the agencies, at the brands to really have these conversations upstream. Now, again, we're trying to make it as easy as possible downstream, and we will always optimize for that. But when you're talking about enhanced spots and enhanced environments in CTV, how cool is it, just like you would in a Super Bowl ad, to talk to creative teams to say, how could we use this medium in a really interesting way? What's your idea? How could we actually take that to a publisher and build the dream and build the idea? And so a good idea can come from anywhere. I'd love to have more conversations upstream with creative teams, but also we're finding great creative ideas from the publishers. They know their properties better than ever. They know their tech better than anybody. And we just have an example of doing something for Televisa Univision where we're really built a custom unit just for them. And we're really excited to see how it does. And if it does great, we'll roll it out and scale it.
So what do you see as the biggest challenges then for advertisers that are adopting these new dynamic creative supply partnerships that you're bridging and building?
A lot of times if you're doing those in silos, it can tend to be really fragmented. So a lot of streaming services and providers provide custom units, but they do it for their thing. So what we really try to foster is that scaling of creativity. Like, let's build something together and let's be able to scale it across a number of suppliers. So it's easier on the teams, it's more efficient, and just scaling that high impact like never before. So that's what we encourage is, if something's working within a specific publisher, bring it to us and let's see how we can scale that across multiple publishers.
We've covered so much throughout this series, from retail media to bad creative to the importance of creative. If there's one thing that you could leave the listeners with that, TripleLift is really trying to usher forward for the advertising industry, what would that be?
It's back to creative. I mean, we just rebranded ourselves the creative SSP. I don't mean to sound like a broken record.
Right.
More creative,
more creative for everybody.
I mean, we want to shift the perception that programmatic is this kind of one-dimensional thing so that it really can be creative and impactful. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. And the reason we can do that is through quality integrations with publishers, with quality conversations with advertisers that understand what do they want to do and what do they want to accomplish. But again, if we can change the perception of programmatic as that one-dimensional thing to a very highly creative and scalable medium, then we've done our job.
As a lover of creative, I support this message. Thank you for being here. And thank you to TripleLift for sponsoring this series. Meredith, thank you and good luck with all that you're doing at TripleLift.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for having our partners.
Thank you, Meredith.